All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining our panel discussion, Anti-Black Racism in the Music Industry Steps Forward. We're very honored and happy to host this panel discussion tonight. Basically, this panel discussion is a part two taking off from where we started in August when we had a panel discussion. It was a great discussion, was well attended, and a lot of great points came out of that discussion. We really talked about where anti-Black racism in the music industry manifests, a lot of the symptoms that it has caused, and the negative impacts that are the legacy of anti-Black racism in the music industry. So today we're looking forward. We're going to also kind of look back, but look back with strong lessons learned that we can bring forward. So it's my pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Sarah Onyango. A translator by trade, Kenyan-born Sarah Onyango is a well-known fixture in Ottawa's community television and radio scene. She has hosted the monthly African cultural program, Fronton From?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, I got it
Yeah.
right. On Rogers
Yeah.
TV Cable 22 in Ottawa since 2002, as well as weekly radio programs, Black on Black and Africa Revisited on CHUO 89.1 FM, that's Ottawa University Community Radio, since the late 1990s. In 2003, she created Black Ottawa 411, an online virtual hub providing information about the National Capital Region's Black community, businesses, organizations, and events. A tireless promoter of African and Caribbean culture and activities, Sarah has for many years been actively involved in public relations work for various African and Caribbean diplomatic missions, as well as numerous community organizations such as Black History Ottawa, Conseil de la Communauté Noire du Gatineau, Fête Carib, Dream Keepers, Ottawa Community Immigrant Services, Ottawa Local Immigrant Partnership, co-chair of Welcoming Ottawa since 2013, and the United Way East Ontario, member of the Volunteer Recognition Team since 2008. Sarah's community service has been recognized with various awards, including the United Way Centraide Ottawa Community Builder Award 2008 and 2011, the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal in 2012, the Ontario Volunteer Service Award 2012, the Leading Women, Leading Girls Building Communities Award 2014, the Ontario Black History Society's Matthew DaCosta Award 2016, the the OC 150 Award 2017, 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women 2018, and Dreamkeepers Citation for Community Leadership this year in 2020. What a pleasure to have you lead this panel, Sarah. I'm passing it over to you, and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And yeah, that's kind of embarrassing to hear that big list of awards when the people I really want to celebrate and applaud are our amazing and talented panelists. But before I start the discussion, I'd like to acknowledge that we are having this event on traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of the Algonquin people of Ottawa Gatineau. I thank them for their stewardship of this land. I thank them for the solidarity that they have been showing Black peoples from the beginning of our presence on these lands. I'd also like to frame this discussion, put this discussion in the context of the UN decade for peoples of African descent. We're going to reference that when we're talking about anti Black racism, the UN decade for anti Black racism, because thanks to this UN decade, the government of Canada, the national government, finally recognized that anti Black racism is actually a thing. And that is part of the sort of historical context in which all of these initiatives and all of this resistance is are taking place. So, um, ladies first, wise. So we have amazing panelists with some experience in the music industry, specifically in the urban genre, hip hop, rap, slam, poetry. And we'll start with Michelle McCulloch, aka Miss She Me. She's a Canadian rapper and actress, and she's the first notable Canadian female MC, and she is considered a national hip hop pioneer. I'm sorry, for me, she is a queen mother of Canadian hip hop. I'm just saying, like that's just who she is for me. I don't know about you. She is the first Canadian hip hop recording artist to have been signed by a major American record label, and she's had quite a few awards, including the 2012 DJ Stylist Hall of Fame Award, the 2013 CUMC Lifetime Achievement Award. She's also been Juno nominated, and I believe she did win once. I can't find this here on my very, very long list. But needless to say, she is highly respected. She is a veteran in this industry. Mishimi is also a mom, and she's also someone who did university studies along with her music career. She's also involved in organizations that advocate for artists. She sits on various boards, including the Jamaican Music Conference, Generation Hip Hop Global, which is based in Brazil, by the way, Hip Hop BLVD in New York City. She's also active in the acting world, and mentioned that earlier with ACTRA. She is a member of ACTRA, and she has had roles in several films, include and TV. And one of my favorite shows where I saw her was Drop the Beat. She'll talk about that, I'm sure. And Mishimi is also a businesswoman because this is a business. She is the CEO of MBM Publishing Inc., SIL Publishing, and Track and Field Entertainment, Detroit Digital Believe, and she's also an author. So welcome, Mishimi. Bienvenue à cette discussion. And then we have someone who is very well known here in the Ottawa-Gatineau region. Je vais commencer en français. He is French speaking, so out of respect for that, je vais commencer en français. Alors, Wise Atangana est actif comme artiste, poète, hip-hop et entrepreneur culturel depuis 2005 au Cameroun. Et il a aussi travaillé au Gabon, sur la scène gabonaise. Et avant son arrivée au Canada en 2013, il a créé plusieurs groupes, il a sorti plusieurs mixtapes, des singles, des maxis, des vidéos. Il a aussi travaillé avec des artistes en tant que mentor et gérant de jeunes artistes en début de carrière. Il a toujours travaillé comme artiste indépendant. And he is an Ottawa-based Canadian performer, songwriter, and motivational speaker, originally from Central Africa, from Cameroon. And he is a member of MASK. MASK is an organization that hires arts educators, mainly in the schools. And he, apart from French, he also speaks Ewondo. His mother tongue is Ewondo. In fact, his name, Atangana, means storyteller, communicator, master of ceremonies. And it's not surprising that he has become quite an illustrious slam poet. He has several albums. He's already put out several albums. The latest one speaks directly to this topic, and he's going to tell us more about it. So welcome to both of you. Bienvenue à tous les deux. I'm going to start with, sorry, Wise, but I'm going to start with the veteran.
yeah, for sure.
The queen will go first. So I'm going to ask both of you to just give the audience an idea of your career path, like how you got from the beginning to here. And if you can do that in 5 minutes, that would be great. Alors, je vais vous demander à tous les deux de nous donner une idée de votre parcours de combattant. Comment vous êtes arrivé ici dans votre carrière. Mishi, over to you.
Wow, it's hard to do in 5 minutes. I'm going to try to wrap it up in a nutshell.
No. You can. You're the queen, so you can get 10 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't even want to for 10 minutes. I just love music. I love hip hop. And I got introduced to it through the high school, through going to New York, through mother bringing back Rappers Delight Records. And just like anyone else getting introduced to the genre, you find ways to make a living from it. And if you're not making a living because you're so addicted to the lifestyle of the music or whatever you're passionate about, I just kept going, which led me to concert hall, which led me to anywhere the music was, whether it was parties, platforms like before the shows. We went to Europe very early because there was no hip hop clubs here in Canada. And it was very easy to travel in Europe. So as the genre grew, I had the pleasure of going with some of the new, now known as the Golden Era artists, and just kind of piggyback around them. I'm like the baby of the Golden Era because they were all older than me and I was the baby of it. But it was just being there led to so much experience. And then dabbling a bit in radio in Toronto, and also which led to the acting, the Drop the Beat, which I played the character of myself because playing lead actress is a totally different beast. So just one thing led to the other, but the core of it has always been music. And so wherever that's led to, whether it's on a board, on a panel such as this, finding these new ways, is zoom, and all the things that were invented to kind of help the genre grow. I had the pleasure of just kind of being a part of. So that's a resume in a nutshell. And we just keep going because it's very hard to stop when you do what you love.
Yeah.
That's my nutshell.
So what you skipped over, like you remember in your bio when I talked about you being a pioneer, we have to go back there. Because it's one thing when you're an artist sort of following in other people's footsteps. But here in Canada, people like yourselves were kind of paving the way for the artists that came before you. This was the 90s. This was the mid 90s.
Late 80s.
Late 80s. Yeah, late 80s. I'm trying to make you look younger. But anyway. Right. So
we got this hat, we got this light, we got this paint.
Yeah, just saying. So late 80s. Okay, so late 80s, early 90s. What was that like?
Being a baby in it was very risky because a lot of fake IDs saying that you're older, adventurous. You didn't know what to fear. So, and hip hop was just a new genre. We were just coming out of trying to prove that it's not disco. Here are our parents doing disco, and reggae music was always there in my household, as long as as well as country, and just everything that was playing on radio, because radio itself was not new, but in the household when you finally got a budget, you would probably get a radio before TV. So it was just really cool in being a fly on the wall and learning with a lot of American artists, because in going to New York and telling them and trying to convince them I was from Canada, they were like, "Where's Canada?" And I'm like, and they started speaking Jamaican, so that really confused. They knew of Canada, but didn't know. When you say Toronto could have been anywhere in the world. So, and then here I was, it could have been Toronto, Jamaica. Like it really was that kind of ignorance and not knowing that, the genre was really spreading, but it was new to everybody. So that was a difference. No one knew what was growing. The hardcore New Yorkers, they knew because they were pioneering it. And here we are just soaking it up, whether it was the fashion, the lifestyle, the brands and clothes that everyone was gravitating to. It'd be like, one part of the city, but yet everyone's gravitating to this one look. And we're like, how is this information even getting out? So looking back, it's kind of cool to see how it all manifested. But yeah, it was just really a really cool perspective to own and kind of keep nurturing your craft around it.
You referenced your Jamaican, you referenced your Jamaican background, and that was sort of the difference between the Canadian hip hop I found in the 90s. The difference between Canadian and American hip hop, that our Canadian artists were just rapping in patois, in Creole, and later on, as more the continental Africans got into the scene, rapping in those languages in Somali, etc., with Kenan, etc. So, how much weight does your Jamaican heritage carry in terms of the sound that you created?
Oh, it carried a lot of weight because it was the ideal thing that made me different. the dialect of the tongue. So here I was coming from Jamaica, and I'm being, you know, you're at home, sitting with family, coming from church, and everyone's telling you, you know, you have to speak English. You're not going to make it here if you don't say table. Even now, I don't even know how I said table Jamaican. So it's just saying like little small, but that was part of the perspective, and getting and fitting in, and you know, growing as a young adult. You had to speak properly. So when I got away from even family and got into the arts, I was like, here I get to speak Jamaican. I get to keep my accent. So music being the outlet. Imagine you get to use your accent in the outlet. Then you go to a whole other country because you just got papers and immigration. You can order, and then over there, oh my God, they like my accent. Mom, Grandma, I don't have to speak proper. Look, and here is this new blossoming in era and music. And then my grandmother. Oh Lord, here we're gonna go. But we can take it back because my mother learns African words because we're from the Ivory Coast. We're from Ghana. So she was laughing that I was laughing at her, knowing that. Remember when you had to learn words and you were telling me, but she was the one that really was the core in saying to appreciate where we come from, because I'm maroon in Jamaica, and then appreciating it here, because it wasn't even in style. I wasn't even like, there's been a whole bunch of shitload of interviews, and you never hear me bring up the Ivory Coast and the Ghana background. You just see me go in the Afro Global Festival and find my roots. You just see me join Jamaican Music Conference, and they travel to Ghana all the time. You just see me with Public Enemy when they go to, you just find that you find your way and you put your worlds together, because you still have to live life while you're doing music. So all those things, I knew that as I nurtured that, we're still talking about it in 2020. Those are the things that made me different and saved me, was my Jamaican accent, and then growing up and finding yourself and finding your roots and finding how dialogue changed and why it was such an asset, and how much of the diaspora is out there, even in Europe, listening to hip hop, even in the UK, listening to hip hop, and coming from all over the world.
Yeah.
Core. So yeah, my accent, it's still the big denominator and the narrative that keeps me going and makes me very unique even to this day.
Yeah, I agree.
Still.
So since you referenced the motherland, we're going to go over to Wise. Wise Atangana comes direct. Il vient directement du continent. Alors Wise, je vais te poser la même question. Est-ce que tu peux nous raconter brièvement ton parcours? I will summarize in English for those of you who don't speak.
Ok, donc c'est mieux que je le fasse. Je peux paraphraser, mais tu préfères que je le fasse en français à 100%, c'est ça? C'est mieux?
Ben, si tu peux le faire en anglais, ça va, mais je pense que ça va te freiner un peu dans ta pensée.
Ouais, c'est vrai aussi. Donc, on peut aller. On est en Ontario, là, on est dans le franc-anglais.
Yes.
Bon, ben oui. Ben c'est clair que moi, quand même, j'ai commencé à. Je suis aussi de la génération 90, comme les gens qui sont entrés dans ce mouvement-là. Je me souviens vraiment dans les. Cette inspiration de danser, la mode, le hip-hop, c'est vraiment quand les années 95, où cette flamme, quand vraiment cette explosion du hip-hop a commencé. Et, but I think in Cameroon, in Africa, you're exposed to different culture, like English, and we have a French hip-hop, we have a Anglophone hip-hop. And for me, growing up in Cameroon, firstly, like I was aware avec ces deux mondes, like it was having like the best hip-hop, on avait nos hip-hop francophones, les MC Solar, les IAM, tout ça. Oui, ça, c'était des gens qui nous inspiraient, qui étaient vraiment, après, il y avait ce groupe-là qui venait aussi, les Wu-Tang Clan étaient déjà là, les Biggie, tous ces gens qui faisaient là, mais quand même, you were exposed to big hip-hop culture. It's very different, the dynamic.
Right. And just let me quickly summarize. So he's a 90s, he's from the 90s generation. And the hip-hop that he was exposed to is that hip-hop that came from France originally, right? The
like
French
black people of France.
Black people from, immigrants in France that did their own distinct French hip-hop. So can you explain that difference?
Yes, the difference.
What's the difference?
La différence, c'est que, je pense que le hip-hop américain, il est un peu plus extravagant, un peu plus un peu plus extravagant, un peu plus, je ne veux pas dire violent, comme ça, les bases
non, c'est
sont...
plus cru.
C'est plus cru. C'est
Oui,
plus cru.
voilà.
Et par
Et
contre...
dépouillé. C'est vraiment dépouillé. Oui.
Mais
c'est les textes qui ont
et
plus
par
de
contre,
poids.
le hip-hop en français, il y a des... Tu vois, tu ne peux pas comme dire « fuck you, machin », c'est impossible. Comme tu ne peux pas, il y a des argots que
des
tu ne peux pas... Oui. Il y a comme des... il y a des mots qui ne coulent pas en français.
C'est ça,
Et puis, il y a un son unique aussi. Le son dans le hip-hop américain, il est gros, il est grand, il est tout. Et dans le hip-hop français, c'est comme... c'est la seconde industrie, parce qu'il y a le hip-hop français qui est la grosse industrie. On a le hip-hop français qui est la seconde grosse industrie, comme il y a les rappeurs français sont des multimillionnaires en euros. Comme c'est...
Okay, let me summarize very quickly. And it's very true what Wise is saying about the difference between French hip-hop from France, because the Quebec one is a whole other story, but the hip-hop from France, where you can't get away with filling in a lot of space with swear words, with the F word and N word and all of that. You can't get away with that in French because it doesn't flow. Your rhyme is just not going to work. In France, really the focus is on the language. You have to be extra.
Deliver the message.
The message, the text, and the way you sort of string them together. And the French public is also much more demanding in that way because of the culture of reading, la culture de la lecture là-bas en France, right? Yes. So Wise was saying that the French
remember they have a large...
Pardon? Michi? Yes. What were you saying?
No, early 90s when we had toured with Gangster and Dream Warriors. And I remember it was in France, it was sold out. Those two of the biggest shows. And you're right, the opening acts, they're very cultured hip-hop.
Yeah.
So even when I hear what he's saying and when it was described to me then, I do agree that it was about what they're saying back then. And back the acts were the opening for Gangster and Dream Warriors, and they were very cultured also. Even if I didn't understand it, I knew it was different compared to what's now.
Yeah. I see what somebody in our audience is a big Gangster fan. Lots of fire.
The show was huge.
Absolutely. No, I mean, those really were the good old days. And then, of course, people who follow the hip hop scene now will know about Grand Corps Malade, who's my favorite slam artist. But I digress. Let's go back to Wise. And his experience. So you were in Cameroon. You had those influences from France, but also the influences from other parts of the African continent. So how did you create your style? How would you describe your style?
Yes, you know, I am I grew up around storytelling. I grew up in the village with my grandfather, and I grew up with a lot of story. You know, when I was a little kid, I was 5 years old. To go to school, I was walking 7 kilometers to go, 7 kilometers back, like 14 kilometers a day. And like mother is like 30 years now, I don't know something. And but I think there was a big strength to see my grandfather every night, like around the fire with story, singing. I think that's the image. It's very strong in my head. Like this is very magic. Like when I just think in that moment, c'est très mystérieux. Comme ça c'est quelque chose qui a marqué ma vie. Et je pense que c'est le désir de vouloir transmettre, raconter ces chansons qu'on chantait autour du feu, ces danses qu'on faisait toujours les soirs. Je pense que ça, c'est vraiment la flamme, là où cette flamme a été allumée. Parce que, in my family, personne n'a jamais été artiste. Comme j'ai une famille de plus de 200 membres, il n'y a aucun artiste. Je suis vraiment le seul artiste qui fait de l'art. Et Donc, c'est un monde où j'ai vraiment été combattu beaucoup pour le faire, comme c'est toujours quelque chose où j'ai toujours pris ça comme à la défensive parce que ça a toujours été vraiment un combat pour vraiment exprimer ce poids interne.
Yeah. So Wise is saying, for people who don't understand French, how the storytelling that he grew up with around the fire in the village, because he had a very rural upbringing, whereas someone like Mishimi grew up in Jane and Finch, which is a more urban setting. So you can see how, you know, they come at this with different influences. So Wise, you went from working as an artist in Africa on the continent back in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, and then you moved here. So how was that? You moved here in 2013. That's recent.
Yeah.
So
it was
how was that?
A big shock because, you know, when you're like, I need to restart everything first.
Yes. Yeah.
Because like I said, in Cameroon, like I wasn't a star, you know, superstar, but I was living.
You were known.
Like I was known doing art,
established,
being hustling, doing like only that. Like je n'ai jamais travaillé pour quelqu'un dans ma vie. Like I never worked like 2 months for somebody in my life, like music, entrepreneurship, hustling every day. Donc, je pense que in Cameroon, j'étais établi comme artiste déjà et entrepreneur dans la scène. But after moving in Canada, you know, in 2013, because I met my wife in Cameroon, and she came in Cameroon, we had a baby, she didn't want to stay in Cameroon, we come in Canada and stuff like, I know we have that story, many people know that story.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But, you know, after come here, and it was a whole process, now adaptation and stuff like you say, start everything, because like Cameroon, we are bilingual, but I was in Francophone side. Like I was like have a lot of but now I can speak a little bit in English, but I was having a lot of barriers, trying to understand also, because, you know, in Africa, in Cameroon, there's a lot of people, and people consume arts and culture, music.
Yes.
But here people don't consume, you know, it's not, you don't know the hype artists in Canada, that, you know, you are friend here in Ottawa, you don't know what's happening in Quebec, in Toronto. It's very divided. But
wait a minute, Wise, when you say people consume, it's not true that people don't consume art. They consume art, just not enough Black art.
Okay, but that's
there
a
you
good
go.
precision.
Yes.
That's a good precision. And something I noticed, that's I think like ça c'était mon premier choc. Like after 4 years, I don't know, maybe 3 years, I realized there's a lot of Black artists, because, you know, chacun est dans son petit camp, chacun est dans son petit côté. Il n'y a pas. Donc pour moi, c'était vraiment un peu compliqué pour me réadapter. Mais la force, c'était comme ce qui m'a permis vraiment de continuer, because I'm still full-time artist here, like I do art education full-time.
Right.
Ce qui m'a permis de trouver un moyen de m'établir en tant qu'artiste, parce que j'avais presque 2 ans, j'avais pas le droit de travailler.
Yes.
Et puis et puis on avait des enfants et tout ça. Ça m'a permis aussi quand même de commencer à faire le réseautage, l'étude de comment est-ce que l'industrie fonctionne, comment est-ce que je peux me positionner en tant qu'artiste c'est les restis, et artiste qui a ce côté culturel, parce que j'ai quand même grandi dans un bassin de la culture, comme la culture camerounaise, africaine, la culture urbaine, européenne, américaine. Donc, je suis comme un mix, une explosion de culture. Donc, c'est...
Right. Mishi?
I'm catching bits and pieces.
No. Okay, so basically what he's saying is how difficult it was to go through, you know, the same process that a lot of us professionals go through in any field. If you're foreign and you are racialized and you're Black on top of that, you come here and you have to start all over again, because everybody looks at you like, who are you?
Yeah,
we don't know you. You go from a place where you're so popular, you just have to say your first name and boom, you know, everybody knows who you are. And then you go from that to this. And as an artist, like for him to have to start all over again, to rebuild networks, well, to build networks that he never had, and then to do it in the other language, in English, because he's a francophone. So those were some of the challenges, and that's what I was going to ask. You know, what specific challenges generally did you face, and what were the successful strategies that you've used to overcome those challenges?
Well, yeah.
Me?
No, Mishi, and then we'll
Michi,
come back
okay.
to you.
Okay,
Yeah,
Michi.
you already sort of mentioned some of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michi.
You mentioned it's going in and out. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I heard, okay, there we are. We're back. I heard challenges, and what were some of the and what I was going to say, why culture is so important. Although it's interesting to see when people read the bios. Like I grew up in Jane and Finch. I actually grew up in Lawrence, Martha Eden Way,
sorry.
Shrift Way.
Sorry.
No, it happens. No, but it's a wide range of a big area that's very similar.
Right.
And like a lot of artists, I go back to Jamaica all the time. Like I live there practically now. So in growing up, the reason I do that now is because I did it so young. My family was always going back. And I say that to say this, that yeah, you had the beauty of going back to Jamaica, even as an artist and everyone knowing me in Canada, I had to start over there too. In just learning back the accent, because my Jamaican had turned Canadian. So you do have Dapper too. So the dialect, it goes both ways when you reintroduce yourself back into the injuries, and barriers are everywhere. But part of the beauty of me sticking to it, why it's so relevant now, is because I kept going back to Jamaica. A lot of people don't leave Jane and Finch and go back to Jamaica. A lot of people don't leave Eglinton or everywhere and go back to where they're from. It's harder to go back to Africa, to go back and forth consistently and absorb one's trying to, regardless of doing that in music, in a country that doesn't really appreciate or know how to appreciate Black music.
Yeah.
So it's like we can go back to wherever and so, but because you have one life to live and there's only a window of opportunity and an age limit, when even in our genre, we were saying that they were even allowed to be expected in the business. So it's a weird thing to be a part of, in terms of being from somewhere else and coming to Canada and saying that you're a Canadian artist. There's always going to be a barrier, because what happens now is the infrastructure learns how to use where you're from compared to if you're born in Canada against you. And here you have artists that are diaspora, and here you have Canadian artists that are representing only Jane and Finch and representing only Eglinton, only Scarborough, only Ottawa, only Côte d'Ivoire, but only thing. And then there's this thing going against it, and we're all trying to get into the same business of music. So whether you speak English or other languages, period, the barrier of the infrastructure in North America in a whole is still active for everybody.
Let's talk about the infrastructure and anti-Black racism back then when you were starting in the 90s, because I can recall that urban, quote unquote, urban music, let's just say it's Black music, people, come on, let's get real, because that's what it is. They just don't want to call it Black music. No, seriously. There were not, you saw all, the Junos and the Caras and all of the awards shows, and there was no urban category, hip hop, none of that until
We started, the first category was everybody in it. Red Hot Chili Peppers, myself. When they did the first hip hop category, that's when Maestro won, and there was a hip hop category. And there's still no love. Like, I shouldn't be having to tell you I was in the first category. Red Hot Chili Peppers won. The other, and it went on, and then Maestro won. We should not be telling these stories now. It should be on, at least on a Saturday night. It's just, it's a shame that after 35 years in it, and I remember running down the hallway as a little girl, 16, doing the KRS party in the hallway, saying, "This is what we're doing in the streets of Jane and Finch." And it just still nothing, what we fought for and tried to establish even as a culture there, is still not being recognized here. It's just being criticized more. And, we're joining the other part of North America. We're exploiting our youth. You would think that in Canada, there's no mature artists, whether in jazz, reggae, hip, there's no mature artists. Everybody, when you get back into the Black scene, is young people. They keep going to the exploitation of young people. And then we forget about the history where another infrastructure barriers here because we're all fighting for this one little window, this one little hole to push everything, our entire history, and then every.
Oh, something's going on with there's a bit of a lag.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
But so that's really interesting because one of the main challenges and problems for our Black artists, our Black Canadian artists, it's exposure. And what greater exposure can you get than being showcased on national TV at the Junos, for example, or in major awards programs, right?
I missed the beginning part. I heard the end of the Juno.
Exposure, yeah. So what greater showcase than something like the Junos or La Disque for the exposure of our Black artists?
You said, what was it? Are you trying to ask what was the barriers or if we had it? I missed the beginning part. I mean, those platforms must be good, but you'd swear if there's a telethon, you'd swear there's no Black people in Canada that got sick. There's no Black people that can go on there in any other genre and help. If you look at it's something I used to laugh when there's a telethon or just to save or to fundraise, whatever, they can't. And if they find Black musicians, they're usually under the age of whatever, like there's no old people that get sick, but yet every other genre has every age group. So I, watching that over the years is just being like, this is crazy. It's just one hole. Yeah, the platform, and they act like there's not enough time to share a thing, and there is, because it doesn't take it, sometimes you can just stroke someone's with just one, just two or three. Like there's a handful, but there's only a handful that got the platforms in the first place. So if you kind of just recognize the handful from our community, it would just be a little bit better. But now it's like there's no, and then the next thing of that is funding. When you get access to funding, and then when you get funding, that's your success story. It's not even about the culture anymore and who the people gravitate to. It's about who got the funding is the best. So it happens.
So someone was saying if everybody can mute themselves who is not speaking, that might help the problem with the stream sort of freezing and the lag. So that would be great. Could you do that, everybody, if you're not speaking? So basically, if you're not me and the two panelists, then you should put yourself on mute. No, not Mishimi. Just everybody else. So speaking. So another challenge you just mentioned just now, funding, getting funding for your projects. Let me go to Wise. Wise, tu es là? Hello?
Oui, j'écoute.
Oui, c'est ça. Alors, on veut parler de financement because artists have to live off of their art. You managed to do that in Cameroon. What has happened since you've come here? Living off of your art. Like, how do you do that? How do you organize yourself to be able to do that?
Yes, c'est une bonne question. Et, living, being artist is, when you have the queen qui ont ce parcours-là, mais living with art, I think c'est dans toutes les sociétés. Like, moi, j'ai un peu regardé, like in every society, I don't know, I have friends in Europe, in US, in Africa, like it look like in every society, it look like, I don't know, 5% make it. It's difficult. And for me, like in Canada, je pense que c'est encore un peu plus compliqué parce que pour like to be artist in Canada, I think like I found that more challenging. Like I said, firstly, like there's not connection in the country. Like there's like you were speaking about exposure. Like if you are in, I would say, if you are in Ontario, like in Toronto, people don't know you in Ottawa. People don't know you in BC. If you are in BC, don't I say, it's very difficult if you are not big artist. I don't know, even to be big artist, I did a panel 2 years ago with Warner Music Bros. You have Sony Music, you have Universal Music, and you have Warner Music Bros. It was here in Ottawa. They said they hire one artist a year, 1 or 2 high artists. That was the 3 biggest label in the world, like they make billion. but they hire 3 artists and they have every day you have like 1,000, like beaucoup d'artistes qui soumettent des choses. Donc pour dire que, like for me, like that was like when I came in Canada, because j'avais déjà cette capacité quand même de développer entrepreneurial skill, because like for me I realized like if you are an artist, you are an entrepreneur, like he is tu ne peux pas me dire le contraire. Tous les artistes qui se démarquent dans tout, c'est des artistes, ils ont du talent, ils chantent, but they are entrepreneurs, that they know how to organize themselves, how to plan, how to create team,
or they should.
Yeah. Donc,
if they're successful. Yeah.
Donc moi je pense que, et pour moi, coming in Canada, I think like the big thing I say, like I did 2 years without working, like I was taking care to the kid and stuff. That gave me also, I have a time a little bit to learn, like how can I adapt my skills, like in Canada, because I know already, like I never went to the university and stuff in Cameroon. I was just in art, extremely creativity. And when I moved here with that background, I realized that, you know, I don't want to be in the McDonald's, in the, I don't know, wherever, because being Black is, and with my background, it's only that kind of job I can have in Canada. Because if I don't do that, I need 4 more years to go in the school. I don't have that time. I have kids. Like for me, c'était vraiment critique. Comment est-ce que je peux adapter mes compétences. Et d'où j'ai vraiment utilisé mon côté culturel. Like, you know, one of my first projects, because I realized, you know, I'm an Ottawa, French speaking, that I realized also, like, speaking French, it was one of my big advantage. Because in the beginning, it was intimidation, like I can connect with people and stuff. But when I start networking, I realized that that's a big advantage for me, like speaking French in Ottawa, being Black, coming from Africa, create culture.
So that's how you did that project for teaching little kids.
Yeah, that was my first big project, My Follow Baby. This is the book, like how I can introduce kids, Canadian family in bilingualism through African lullabies. Donc, it's like I told you, I grew up with my grandfather, a lot of song, a lot of melody, a lot of lullabies. That was my first big project because I was with my 2 kids. I was my kids. I was going all the time to the community center. I didn't find anything from Africa. And I realized that, you know, I have kids here and stuff, but and I started, because with my little, avec ma fille à la maison, je lui chantais toujours ces berceuses. Quand j'ai commencé, j'ai réalisé quand même que ça avait de la portée. D'où il fallait vraiment de l'adaptation. J'ai développé tout un programme. J'ai commencé avec le Glip Community Center. J'ai proposé un curriculum. Ils ont accepté. J'ai travaillé avec des femmes. J'ai fait un programme pilote. Et puis, j'ai fait une levée de fonds pour créer le livre.
Yeah, so basically you saw a need that was elsewhere other than the music industry. And you used your skills from the music industry to put together this project that enlarged your network so that you were able to go from there. Because I remember there was an album that you put out after that. After My Follow Baby, you put out Rime et Motivation, which is an excellent album. I recommend it to everybody. But we're sort of getting away from the topic here. You know, you did mention something that is interesting, adaptation, because I feel that's sort of key to longevity. And I'd like to go back to the veteran, which is Mishimi. Mishimi. So technology obviously has changed, and now there are ways to circumvent the record labels, because before you had to have the A&R, whoever, and you had, like, there was all this machinery that you had to penetrate and access in order to put your work out there. But now there's technology that enables you to circumvent that. So how did you adapt to this all these evolving trends in the music
I just
industry?
joined the parade. I just like
Oh, we can't hear you. Yeah.
I just followed most of the trends that were coming.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can get it closer. I just followed most of the trends that as they came in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the most useful ones for me at an early stage was Facebook, because I could kind of tell you didn't have anybody internally in the infrastructure representing you. You can actually say to an A&R or a label or president of a company, this is what I'm doing and I'm over here, right? So that was a big game changer, because you could, you can have someone else besides someone representing you, you could share with them some insight on who you are, and and then it got out of control now, because everyone's sharing a little bit too much, but you just adapt to it, and you know how to use it. I think one of the assets we have of being around is that we know the things that we couldn't have access to, so we know what to do with the tools. And I think that's where the difference is, where the kids, they can gravitate to it real quick, figure it out like a video game and put it out there, and find edits. And then if you actually know how to do it, then it's easier to learn and see what's winning, and then just kind of learn that tool. So being in the middle factor, not too old to really shun away from it and shut it down, and not being too young to not knowing what to do with it, because some people know how to use all of these things out to where you have to go. So there's been new ways where even the record companies itself are finding new ways to get things out there. So the game, you can't change a game won't change, but the players do. You just have to find your way of getting in there. And I think content, and letting your fans know who you are is also a thing. You got to do other things. Other things gravitate. There's so much facets in about artists that only who you were signed to or who you were working with were able to let out or let people see into at a certain time. When now you are your own creator. You can put out how your day, you're not waiting in an assembly line of who you are. You grow at the pace you want, and then you can also shut down. The cool thing about social media, you don't have to share everything, and there's a lot of people that shut down and get a lot more attention by not sharing so much. So there's two ways that I learned that people could do it. Yeah. So it's just finding your way and what your fans and what people like about you and how you fit in, for me.
Yeah.
But it's a lot to learn.
I noticed that. Yeah, it is. I remember back in the 90s that you didn't, when you had all this gatekeeping of the Black artists, you didn't hear a lot about their activism. And especially, you didn't know who was woke and who wasn't woke and this and that. There was none of that in the 90s. I don't recall any of that. And probably because there was so much gatekeeping. So
you're happy to get an interview. Much as tell how you feel.
Yeah, right. So one question I was asked to ask you. So now that the music industry, the recording industry agree that anti-Black racism exists. Our Prime Minister has said so. So what strategies can musicians and music industry professionals use in an effort to eliminate anti-Black racism in this business and in cultural industries generally? What effective strategies?
Well, for me, I think we're trying a lot of them already. I think the fact to turn in the era where people are actually getting to do and not giving themselves permission. I think that is one of the giving yourself permission to do things that you think will not be effective. It's coming down individually, because it's not like I have the answer, because there's still, even when we give the answers and we pool and we have, platforms and Zoom meetings, there's still an infrastructure that is in place. And a lot of people that were there when I started are still there now. So there's so much things that are hesitant to change that it's, we can only do so much, but we can do.
I think
so much.
Okay. Well,
And that is the beauty of it. And there's a whole plethora of new artists that, you just joining the generations of music, just joyful thing about it. So I think that now that we've really no borders now in music. So the artist.
Oh, looks like we've lost.
It's shut down.
Oh,
That's right.
there. I see the image. Are you there? Yes?
Me?
Yeah. So I think we missed like the end of your last sentence. Yeah?
And we're back.
Yes.
I don't know. Just there's so much things that we can use now and tools that you can get around and get to your fans and there's no borders. There's no borders in the internet. New fans.
Okay. So
and the new generation and the new fans got to connect with old generation. I'd hate to think that there's an age barrier in terms of, because I give young people enough credit. Not all their music is going one way.
Yeah. So while we sort out on your end what's going on with the stream, which keeps freezing, I'm going to go back to Wise. Wise, tu es là? Wise?
Oui.
Oui, voilà. Okay, so same question to you, Wise. Like, what effective strategies? I see that recently I attended the launch of your new album, which is focused entirely on anti-Black racism. So tell us about your strategies, your successful strategies for tackling anti-Black racism in cultural industries.
Oui, je pense, comme la Queen disait tout à l'heure, là, je pense il y a un problème d'infrastructure et de structure vraiment pour les artistes noirs, parce qu'il faut avoir un focus. Comme, vous savez, avec le projet que je suis en train de faire, il y a des gens qui disent que je suis raciste, que je veux faire des trucs pour les Noirs, comme tu veux créer un centre culturel afro-noir, ça sonne raciste. J'ai dit, mais il y a un centre culturel indien, juif, français, machin, mais il n'y a pas un centre culturel noir. You know? Like, j'ai eu des feedbacks comme ça avec des gens. J'étais comme juste étonné. Donc, for me, like, I think like to really like is infrastructure problem. Like, il n'y a pas les artistes noirs. Moi, depuis que je suis ici en Ontario, on se fait utiliser par des organisations.
Right.
On est là-bas, on est dans, nous les francophones, on est avec les organisations franco, avec les nouveaux immigrants, avec les petits nouveaux immigrants. Aucune de ces organisations n'est gérée par un noir. Les anglophones sont là-bas et là-bas. Et il n'y a aucune structure solide qui soutient les artistes noirs. And I know in Paris, London, LA, New York, is Black people, is a movement of Black people who create infrastructure to make Black music shine around the world.
Okay, so that is very important, the lack of a structure and the lack of infrastructure that actually supports, intentionally supports Black artists, right? So your strategy is what? You're creating that structure?
Yes, for me now, like, it's the whole idea, because my new album, Justice for Peace, Black Lives Matter, it was a whole study, because after George Floyd, we went to the march, No Justice Until Peace. You know, I sat down and I said, you know, I want to do something. And if I'm here in Canada, I'm Canadian now, I'm from Cameroon, but I'm Canadian, I have my son, my family, my life is there in Canada. Donc, for sure, if I really want to si je veux toucher ce problème à la racine, il faut vraiment aller au-delà de faire une chanson, mettre sur Facebook et machin. Non, il faut, like, on doit, comme on dit chez nous, couper l'arbre à la racine, toucher le truc à la racine. Et moi, I realize, like, there's a lot of talent Black artists in Ottawa, but there's not a home for that artist to come together, to create a movement, to federate. And I see a lot of young people in the school because I've given a lot of workshops. Like the last 5 years, I give almost 200 workshops and performance in high schools, in community and stuff. And j'ai rencontré beaucoup de jeunes noirs dans des salles de classe. J'ai réalisé aussi qu'il y a beaucoup de talent, but we don't have identity. Like, we need to help the next generation of Black youth who are talent to build their Black identity, like how we can empower them, because they are the next talent, because like, donc pour moi, c'est vraiment like, if you want to face systemic racism in Canada everywhere, we need to create a movement. A movement is that we have our infrastructure, we have the system, we create fund independently, we create like the mindset of the ownership in the community.
Yes, ownership.
Donc, pour moi, c'est la clé vraiment.
Right. And so when is your hub, your center, when is that going to be opening? The center that you have been crowdfunding for and designing, etc., for Black artists in Ottawa?
Yes.
That's going to open soon.
Yes, the Afro-Black Cultural Center is a project we will open in January. And the whole idea is to create, because you don't want to do like a traditional cultural center, because in this time, we need to compete with the giant of the technology. We want to create an artistic agency who are there to build the talent of the, like, we help the next generation of Black. We develop a lot of mentorship program. We have one of our program we are designing now, Afro-Black Talent Academy. It will be a mentorship program for 9 months for Black talent. It's like, and it's go in different steps: personal development, spiritual development, business development for 9 months. If you're from the jail, you are in the street, you are there, we know we will develop the system, how we can atteindre ces gens-là pour leur donner ces programmes de mentorat. Donc, on voudrait d'abord se focuser sur les programmes de mentorat pour les jeunes. Et we want to develop also other volets, the exposure, how we can create a PR, brand,
public relations,
how can help artists, because a lot of Black artists, we have a problem of branding, how we can brand ourselves, how we can develop that exposure. Like, and we have a lot of like PR here in Ottawa, ils te prennent juste l'argent, c'est pas vraiment quelque chose qui va dans ton. Donc, bref, c'est ça, le centre culturel, is like how we can develop a Black agency who are focused to develop, like, help youth to build their talents and help Black artists to create exposure. That's our key goal. C'est vraiment notre business model, si on veut le dire.
Right. So really the idea is to build our own system, like a system that's running parallel, but where you groom and you train. Because one thing I've found is, someone who does radio, I have artists who come to our station and they want exposure, etc., and they don't seem to really know what it is they're doing. And there's no proper strategy, and you can tell that they don't have they don't come from an infrastructure, you know. So is Mishi there? One of the questions was, how can audiences and allies support your efforts, the efforts you're doing and the efforts that Mishimi is doing to fight the anti-Black racism in the industry with current or emerging artists? So how can audiences support that effort?
I think in general, just support what we're doing. It's bigger than us and individual artists. There's things that are put in place to help everybody. And then whenever you can get where you get in and fit in, then that's where you help. Not all artists are going to be or have the knowledge or the know-how or even the drive to do certain things that are going to help other artists. Some artists just want to be artists. and they don't want to manage, they don't want to do the center, they don't want to produce, they don't want to do videos, they just want to be an artist. So don't be afraid to still be an artist. But yes, we need help on the infrastructure. So anytime you see somebody likewise building part of that infrastructure, I think it's like a no-brainer to just help them. But because there's going to be a lot of those popping up, period, right? So it's hard to direct someone to is bigger than an individual artist. It's a big thing because the goal is always just one place I can just set off so many, nurture the talent. So I do, oh Lord, I do think that's key. I see my internet going in and out. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So yeah, just don't be afraid to be an artist and just help nurture the things that are popping up and the people that are actually building the incentives.
Buy their music, buy their music, buy their music. And to my fellow radio hosts, play their music, play their music, play their music, to give them, airplay, because, other commercial radio stations obviously don't seem to value them as much as we do, our community. So yeah. What do you think, Mishi, about the role that forums, there's a new forum that was formed called Breaking Down Racial Barriers Initiative, by Universal A&R rep David Cox, and the Canadian Urban Music Conference and forums like that. How could they support the efforts?
How they could support, because they know. So I'm just not gonna, I know me saying it and it coming from me, it's been said so many times, there's still nothing being done. How am I saying it when I was 15 and I'm still saying it now?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just for me to, give you an itemized list, it seems a bit redundant. And I do think that these organizations that are being built have really experienced and talented people as a part of it that are going to agree with the same. Change it at the top, CRTC, change it down there, have some people on the board, have some people sit at the table that can have an effect and know what they're talking about and know who they're talking about and actually know the community and every pocket in every province, not just have somebody that fits the criteria in which you need for that moment because it's that week and it's February and you just need to get this going by February. It gets really, to know that only urban artists can get hired for Black History Month. It's annoying.
Yes, indeed.
The other window of that was Caravana. It's annoying. We barely got 2 years. So it's redundant. So I think you know how to fix it. Not you specifically, those who are listening.
Yeah.
Well aware of what needs to be. It hasn't only just happened to hip hop music, reggae music, Afrocentric music. It's happened for genres before. So you're aware of how it works. You're aware of what needs to sit at the table. Hire the right people. Because there's people like myself that are older artists that want to be a part of the infrastructure, want to hire people, get paid for we don't want to just sit out there and go platinum. We want to help and assist, but we would like to make a living from it. So in terms of opportunity, hire some urban A&Rs. There's so much people that have sat in these A&R positions and haven't had the power to sign anybody. They've been assigned people. So I'm not buying the, people that are, coming together, haven't had power since I began. So it's just, no, because everybody that's been there, I've started with a lot of people that are in place, correct? It's hard to see the people that are in the business of music get a lot further than people that are in music. And then it's nice to see the experiences merge, but the people that were in the business of music haven't been able to help people in music anyways. Because you can't tell me the people that are in there don't know half the people that are. If I know them, you know them. Because we start at the same place. So, it's almost better to work in the business than to say I'm an artist in the business, because the artists are still suffering. And it's a specific spot in North America, which is Canada, that this is happening, because my counterparts in the US, they're like, Mish, if you were here, you'd be doing this, you'd be doing that. But I shouldn't to be a part of the bigger business. Very sure those who collect royalties know exactly how to fix them. How about you?
Well, the United States is a whole different ball game because they've had the Motowns and Stax and the labels where Yeah, and there's an actual appreciation for Black culture that goes, you know, back generations.
But with streaming now,
Yeah,
there's no excuse.
no, there's no.
I'm just saying, if we're going to talk about how this is opened up and this is opened up, and then we need to ease up off the demographics. So Canada doesn't have the people, because we have the ears, we have the talent. They leave here, all of a sudden they blow up. So the only thing they miss when you leave here is a budget, because a radio station will here. The talent, you can sit anywhere in the world now and record, because everybody thinks they can do it and put it out. So it's, you know, we're tired of hearing the same things and see no action, and the same, you know, you get promotions and things and funding and given, but there's no real change. And here we are again. This time we're zooming.
And so, yeah, and another, I would add to what you're saying, another thing that people can do, our allies, is, you know, challenge arts organizations that are publicly funded, like the councils of the arts of Ontario, of Canada, of Quebec, et cetera, et cetera. If they are publicly funded and you are a taxpayer and you know artists who have not been getting funding for their projects, to produce their projects and distribute their work, please go there and lobby and make noise to make sure that that seat at the table, all Black artists are also at that table.
And then we're fighting. That's the thing is, see, I'm from being from the old school. I'm just like, we had no table. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. You had no table.
There's no. You had to be a voice. You had to be part of the community. You had to have a following. You had to be talented. You had to. There was so much more that we weren't so dependent on a grant, because and it's just on this side of the board. It's just like, it's how we live. So we have to be dependent on the grant. But I'm just saying, the musically and chart wise and fan wise and show, because sometimes people that get the grants can't fill a club. Sometimes people, and it looks can be deceiving, and no one wants to press it. And then here we have these people that, you know, I help with the promotions there. It was like after the fact. And, you know, once they interned here with me after the fact, but this people put all the money in. Yeah. So it's a lot of, I don't know, stroking people's ego and posturing here, and nothing. So it has, because I do believe there's people that want to help. Half the people that help me with Black music, they're not all Black.
Yeah.
So I just keep it real. It's just like, I'm not like, you know what I'm just keeping, it's just so much more that needs to be done. And it's so in the infrastructure that it's hard for us to one answer and from one artist and one committee and board, but we do need those things because they have the insight to help. So we're just like, okay, when you get the information out and you're sitting at the board, don't posture because you're the one that got to the finish line first. Help. Have a genuine conscience and knowledge of who's been doing what, who wants to be doing it, because as I said, the social media has been an asset. It is no longer relying on those on the board, on those on the committees, on those that are getting access to speak to the allies first. If you are putting in that work, there's people that can come out and reach you. So just reach out to other people, widen up the range a bit. And let's not forget about the elders that have been doing jazz and R&B and reggae live music in general. There's a whole plethora of live musicians here that you can even get the records without the live musicians. And then when we just want to shove these live musicians away, like I'm talking on a studio thing, kids are out there, not everything's on the computer. Go hire some live musicians because there's a lot of them out here in Canada that can be an asset to the music, that can get streamed, that can do content, that can do lyric video, that can do all the other stuff that can be all in your hand on an app. So there's other ways to get paid, but we got to spread the love.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. We're running out of time. We have to wrap up. Wise, le mot de la fin. We'll give Wise the last word. The Queen has spoken.
Wise? Hit it, Wise.
Yeah, the Queen, like everything you said is like 100% true. C'est vrai, 100%. Actually, I need a featuring. You need to do a featuring, you know, for sure. Parce que, mais c'est ça, ça part de là. Oui, donc, mais pour moi, je pense vraiment comme...
and I'm going to get it. Translate.
Yes. No, he agrees with what you're saying 100%.
Say
What were you saying?
100% agree with you. And the next thing, maybe if you're still producing, we need to do a featuring.
Yeah.
Donc moi, je dis, like, ce que je
Oh
pense,
man.
ce que je pense, moi, mon mot de fin.
Yeah. Your
Mon
last
mot de fin,
word. Closing word.
C'est vraiment comme, il faut plus de solidarité.
Yeah,
we
more
need
solidarity.
More solidarity, and we need more Black artists being artists and entrepreneur, because if you're just singing, you have a guitar, you say you want to be the best guitar player, you don't know everything who happening around you, you are doing that in the wrong way. Donc c'est comment est-ce que, et je pense que c'est cette éducation, parce que il faut une éducation artistique, développement professionnel pour les artistes. Comment est-ce que, parce que everybody, when somebody have a success, like a queen, she had a success, everybody think like it's easy, like just put a song on the YouTube, you record, you do that.
No,
but,
she put in the work.
Yes, it's a whole process. It's a whole concept. It's a whole team. It's a whole strategy. It's not just like, it's not a luck. I don't believe in luck. It's like you do what you're supposed to do 100% and you have a success. No, it's not about luck. Donc moi, je pense vraiment que what we're supposed to do, we need to educate our Black artists, like how to really, because we have culture, we have art, we have swag, we have everything, we have that in the ADN, you know. It's just like how we can, that's why I want to focus on the youth empowerment, how we can really empower them to really take that in serious way, because like for me, I grew up in that illusion. Like if I just record and put that and on the YouTube and stuff, it will blow up. But it's not the reality. Donc je pense que cette éducation des artistes noirs and having infrastructure and create that ownership. We need to own stuff. We need to own label. We need to own PR. We need to own like ownership.
And also, I noticed publishing. You have to own your music, own your songs, right? Own your poems, etc. So, Wise, I'm gonna have to interrupt this. We're already 4 minutes over. And before I hand it back to Patrick, I'd like to thank Wise Atangana and the queen of Canadian hip hop. Hands down, there is no rival at all of Missy Me for sure. And I'd like to send a shout out to Alan Andre. I see Alan Andre is on here, who is one of our most incredible muralists in Ottawa, Gatineau, and in Canada, actually. I'm just saying. So back to Patrick, and thank you very much for having me moderate this.
Merci Sarah, c'était super.
All right, Sarah, the pleasure is ours definitely to have you do such a graceful job of moderating this discussion. We are very blessed and honored to have you do so with us. Missy Me, the Empress, pioneer of hip hop, not just Canadian hip hop, laid the foundation. The ground that we walk on is thanks to her. We're forever grateful. Your presence is respected, it's valued, and it's definitely impactful. So thank you for being here. Thank you so much. We're going to do this again sometime for sure. Wise Tangana, that's my homie, my brother, a visionary, a very thoughtful person who puts meaning and effort behind everything he does. It's a pleasure to have you here. I can't wait to come see your space. I'm up the street from it right now. I wanted to take this moment to thank everyone else who joined. CRANIUM Festival this year has been a challenge. We've been working through COVID-19 and we've had to pivot. And these moments, with such impactful discussions makes it all worthwhile. So your efforts are duly respected and valued. And you know, this kind of thing is why the Cranium team does what we do. We're here right now inside of Studio 2020, which is a Black-owned photography studio in the heart of downtown Ottawa. It's a beautiful space.
Yeah.
We'll be shooting here in about 40 minutes. We'll start shooting some pre-recordings of performances for the 2020 Cranium Festival. So that's the little thing I wanted to add was, you know, WISE talks a lot about economic empowerment, and for allies, for supporters, be thoughtful with your spending decisions. You know, spend your money in places where it's going to have positive impacts. You can spend at Black-owned businesses, you can spend on Black-owned artists, and you can also invest in other businesses that might not be Black-owned, but that know what's up and are doing the right thing. You know, so when you have the choice, think about those decisions you're making, because I think those are maybe the biggest impacts we can make in a, you know, in a society where money is king. So I appreciate everybody's time, and I learned and I gained and I grew as a human being just paying attention to this panel. So thank you so much. We're looking forward to doing it again. Everyone who's joining, thanks for joining. Cranium Festival will go live again on Saturday at 5 p.m. At 5:15 p.m., we will bring in a panel discussion about developing your international network. We will have Henka Maduro from New School Rules Rotterdam, who will be one of our featured panelists. We will have Asu Cuomo from here in Ottawa, but who also has a strong connection to Nigeria. And it will be moderated by City Fidelia, you know, the mayor of Ottawa. And we will also have D.O. Gibson on that call. So it's going to be powerful. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for people in the music industry to learn how to really develop an international network. We're hoping people will join us. Salute to our panelists once again. Yeah, so you know, we can't be in Rotterdam this year, but you can definitely have a chance to, you know, New School Rules is known as, for a lot of Canadian and American artists, like the gateway to the European market, and Henka is a jewel, so we're gonna be really happy to have you here. So at that note, I wanna say peace, one love, and see you all online on
Saturday.
Ouais,
Bye.
bye, merci.
Salut.
Salut. Quel